Sit back, relax, and listen to GapChat. I am here with Sam, Ellie, and Lacey, and today we're going to be talking about equality, and I'm sure lots more that goes around equality and all those things. I'm going to ask a very general question. Do you think that we live in an equal world? No?
No.
No? Why not?
Because throughout the thousands of different generations that we've all been brought up in, there's been different equalities between races, genders, age,
sexuality,
between everything. So we've all been brought up to believe different stuff, different equalities, and it's just, then you hear all this stuff over the news, and no, it just
like
hasn't.
what? I don't watch the news.
About people having depression over it, whereas parents wouldn't exactly understand because they never went through what our generation is going through. So it's it's never been equal between anything.
Never will be.
It never will be.
And would any of you say that you've ever experienced discrimination?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, for different
100%.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
In what form?
Homophobic.
Yeah.
Homophobia.
Homophobia.
Like, I dealt with homophobia for year 8 to year 10, and oh my god, I was on the edge of. But I didn't.
Okay, so do you think that if you had not experienced homophobia, you would have not wanted to unalive yourself?
In a way, it could make you feel like you've come back stronger.
I don't know, because I still question it today. Not question my sexuality. Obviously I know I'm lesbian. Just question why.
Yeah.
Why did it have to happen?
Why did what have to happen? The homophobia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, was that mostly from peers? Was that from adults, other generations? What was that?
It's from peers, but the actual crazy thing about it is after everything went on, I'm actually friends with a couple of the girls who felt that way towards me, and I appreciate it in a way because they've come to understand and accept who I am, for me, and everything. But it was just a rough patch at that time, and I don't want to go back there, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
How do you think you can achieve what you're hoping for, if you like, in equality? What would that look like in the day that we live in now to you?
Just for everyone to be able to be themselves and who they want to be without people questioning it or judging it, or just saying that's not okay.
Because why is it not okay? You love women and you might love men, but why can't men love men and women love women?
Exactly, but you'll never get people who totally understand that and let you be you.
Because they're stupid and they're stuck up.
That's interesting though, because you said there'll never be people who really understand that.
I don't think they will.
Why do you think that is? Besides, quote, they're stupid. Why do you think people have a hard time understanding or accepting, rather?
Because they just don't adapting to new changes and do it the way they do it, or do it the way how their mum or dad did it.
Yeah, it's just been the way that some people are brought up to know that from what we all know is wrong and right, as we've all been taught as kids, that's what they've probably been taught as, and it's you should never be able to accept that. So then they've grown up thinking, I'm never going to be able to accept that, because that was their wrong, not their right.
I was scared to come out, and I genuinely was, because I come out to my brother first, Luke. He didn't care, he didn't mind it at all. But there'd be times where he'd let me on his phone for a bit, and I'd go on Snap, and he'd have photos of pride and everything, and I could see that, and my mum had seen it, and I'd ask her, and she'd be oh, it's nothing. And my stepdad as well, anytime there was something gay on the TV, he'd be what are they doing that for? So I was scared to come out to him. But my biggest fear was coming out to my nan, because I didn't know if she'd still love me. And my mum told me she didn't at first, but she learned to adapt to it and change to it.
Yeah.
But I think there's only a few people who can do that.
And are you glad that you came out to your nan?
I am, yeah. But yeah,
Do you feel a pressure to have to come out as well?
yeah.
Like, is that something that you want to do? Like, you want everyone to understand you, so that's your way of, or would you rather people, you know, you not even have to come out in a sense, and it just be an acceptable thing for you
Yeah.
to live your life and
Be happy.
for people not to question it? Because I can understand. I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, I'm white, I'm straight. I probably haven't experienced discrimination in the ways maybe you guys have. So for me, if I was, you know, not the way I am now, I wouldn't even want to have to explain myself to people.
Yeah.
Is that some of it as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly, have you ever had to have a conversation with anyone to sort of explain or justify your sexuality or who you love?
Yeah, plenty of times.
And what about you, George?
So I have, in a normal sense, I would say I haven't. But I remember actually I had a group of friends, and it just so happened that all of those friends, some of them were gay, some of them weren't identifying as like male or female, and I was actually the, you know, I say in quotes, the odd one out.
Yeah.
In that group, in that setting.
Wow.
So in a way that I was being questioned, like, you know, how did you grow up being straight? If you like,
Why are you straight?
so in a sense, it's the other way around. But I know that I guess it's more common, you know, to have to explain yourself. Maybe.
Like, most of my friends are straight, apart from the odd couple, like, like, I have, like, a few of them, but most of them are straight, and I don't even know why. Like, it's because in this society, masks don't get along with masks, so I can't have masks friends.
Just to pause for a second, for anyone who's listening who's not part of the LGBTQ plus community,
Yeah.
what do you mean by mask?
Masks
Go on.
is like a female who would rather act more male, dress more
Like
male.
masculine.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like mask for short.
Okay.
So
Or like-
person who identifies as a female but chooses to
Dress like a male, act
who-
masculine.
yeah, who feels most themselves sort of more presenting as stereotypically masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might have their hair in a style that's less stereotypically female,
Yeah.
or wear clothes that are less stereotypically female. So yeah, just for
And a femme is like a girly girl. So like a girl who dresses girly, likes to be girly. And then a STEM is a mixture of both. Like a mask and a femme. Like Lacey.
yeah.
You're welcome.
We love it.
But
So
yeah.
if you had someone in front of you that is, let's say, homophobic, that doesn't understand you, what would you want to say to them?
And even to add on to that, not homophobic because they necessarily want to hate, but homophobic because they don't understand.
Yeah.
Because they've never had that life experience. What would you say to them?
I'll just simply ask a question as to what don't you understand and why. And if they give me a reason, so then we can sit down and maybe talk about it and help them understand, then yeah. But some people, you just get that are ignorant and... is that the word? Ignorant.
Yeah.
Ignorant and rude.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, oh, just because I hate, like, gays. And
Yeah.
start saying all this stuff, and you're just like, I just don't even want to talk to you.
Can we just be real for a second? How often, like every day, would you hear someone say something like you just said, like, oh, I hate the gays, or like you said, F the pride flag, or...
Every day.
I said F the pride flag.
No, something that you saw that was...
Every day, yeah.
It is
Every
day.
day.
Yeah.
Can we be real for a second? How does that make you feel as members of the queer community?
To be honest, it don't really bother me because, like, okay, you don't like the gays, and well, I'm not going to change just because you don't like me. Like, yay. Like, wow, you don't like me, okay. And your point is, don't like you either. You're straight.
Yeah, you sort of just grow to just kind of become immune to the comments and just.
But like the weird thing is though, like I don't care like what anybody has to say about it, whether it's good or bad. But anytime like I'm walking past someone or I'm with some like my friends and there's a group of people and I can hear them talking about it, I will literally switch everything off and start listening to that conversation. I don't know why, it's just something that I do. So then I just like listen, and if they say anything wrong, I'll just okay.
Yeah.
You do.
Were you gonna say something there?
Yeah, it's
George.
just when you when you grow up with it for so many years, you just kind of the comments just fly past you, and you're just like, oh, it's just normal now.
Oh wow.
Because it happens so much, so often. Like every single, like you hear and see stuff like every single day for the past 7 years. It's just like, okay.
Yeah. And you mentioned how afraid you were to come out to your grandma. If you were sitting in front of someone who was afraid to come out, what would you say to them? If you were to give them like a 15-second, 10-second pep talk, what would you tell them?
I don't know. I'd tell them to be confident and say it how it comes, because there's no you know what's coming. You know what's going to be said either whatever way you say it. So just let it come out how it wants to come out. Because the thing is, when I come out, me and my stepdad had a conversation about it a day before, and then I saw him again, and when he was mentioning it, I knew what I was, so I told him. The day after, and he was fine. He was accepting. He even put down his for me, and I felt loved. But I didn't care about telling them. It was more about my nan.
Yeah.
But just be confident when you're doing it. Act happy in who you are.
Yeah.
Don't stress.
Yeah. What about you?
So I actually went through a situation like this recently.
Really?
And one of my friends came to me and there was I don't know what I'm meant to say to my mom or my dad. Because the parents were really quite strict.
Yeah.
So I was just just kind of be straight up, just be confident, just say how you feel, and just say that if you're scared, just be like, I am a bit nervous about this, I don't know how you're going to react, and if you don't accept it, then you don't accept it, but if you do, that's who I am, whether you do or you don't. And the person went and done it, and they came back to me and they was like, it went really well. I was like, I told you it would.
Oh, how did that make you feel to do that?
It just made me feel like a proud mom.
Oh.
like I've just set my child off to go to school and do something great, and they've come back and be like, I've done it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm. We live in a very divisive world, don't we? Where people are constantly almost looking for reasons to be different, to have a disagreement. Could you, with people that disagree with the LGBTQ community,
Good job. That was a mouthful. Good
is that right?
Yeah.
Do you see a way, even with disagreement there, to be friends with almost, I'm going to say in quote, the enemy? Because that's what it can often feel like, can't it? When you're on two different sides of the coin, if you like, and you're not agreeing. It's like, okay, I'm not friends with you anymore then. Do you see could you be friends with them? I'd ask the same question to them as well. Could they be friends with you?
Don't know.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's someone that essentially doesn't agree with who you are, isn't it? That's essentially what they're saying.
Yeah. And the irony of that also is that if someone were to come to me and tell me...
Oh, what did you ask? Would I be friends with someone who hates gay people?
Hate's a strong word. I'd say disagrees
With gay people?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
No, I just couldn't.
Mhm.
Because if they end up saying the wrong thing, if a gay person was to walk past and you could just tell that there was gay and they'd be like, oh, look at that gay person. I couldn't do that. I couldn't sit there and have that or allow that to come out in the mouth, because otherwise my fist would be in the mouth.
Mhm.
Sorry, I have to say that, but still.
Yeah.
I just no, that's not okay.
Mhm. What were you saying, Sam?
But the irony is, if someone were to look at me and go, I don't like you because you're brown, or like,
Yeah.
I don't hate you, but I just don't agree with the fact that you're brown.
Yeah.
We probably label that as racist,
Mhm.
and yet for most people who look and go, oh, I don't hate you, but I just don't agree that you're gay, we're not as fast to label it as homophobia, or at least they're not as fast to admit that it's homophobia, because the reality is they know the stigma and the gravitas of that.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we just need to call an orange, and have you ever heard
Just to
that
clarify
saying?
and to translate the American accent,
Wait, you remember which one?
he said orange.
Yeah, but like, what does orange is
And
an
orange
orange
mean?
kind of
Orange is an
state?
orange. It means you're calling something as what it is, not pretending that it's something
Oh,
else.
right, okay.
So you're going, oh, that's a wall. Look at that wall. That's homophobia. Look at that homophobia.
Mhm.
Or that's racism. Look at that racism.
I wouldn't have you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense now.
Mhm. Yeah. So if you could name, I mean, I don't expect you to answer if you don't want to, but if you could name something that you've experienced in your life that has
In
made
what way?
that has made you feel that you are not part of it, if you like. For instance, I don't know, coming into Gap today, did you feel welcomed? Like,
Yeah. Of course
but
I did.
in the world though, can you think of an example where?
I'd feel welcomed.
Like in the context of community,
Yeah.
where you wouldn't feel as welcome as you do in this
Mhm.
conversation. Like, what would those spaces look like for you?
I don't know. Like,
I'd say more of like schools,
yeah.
like high schools, like secondary schools.
Mhm.
Not so much college, because like that's when like people are just mature and growing up and actually like understanding and appreciating.
Mhm.
Okay.
But in secondary school, like, in secondary school, like, I think it's just something to take the mick out of, like, for someone's sexual orientation or like sexuality. I think it's just something to take the mick out of.
Mhm.
Because like when I was going through all like the bullying and everything, like I didn't even get changed in the same locker, like the changing room, because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like, I only had like a few couple of friends in there who would like actually let me get dressed with them because they wouldn't feel uncomfortable, because anytime I'd get dressed in like a changing room, everyone would stare at me like I'm staring at them, but I wasn't. And like I'd tell my mum about it, and my mum was like, oh, don't be stupid, like just ignore them. But it was hard to ignore them because you just feel like you're a weirdo.
Sure. Yeah. What were you saying? How would you answer that? Those spaces that don't feel.
Basically the same as what Ellie's just said, between like high schools and that. Like, with my personal experience, I came out to about like my inner friendship group in like year 8,
Yeah.
because that was when I felt comfortable telling them. I didn't tell everyone. But then around like year 9, year 10, again, like, there was people in the changing rooms that would be like, oh, she's watching us all get changed, oh, because she's into girls. And I'd sit there and I'd be like,
But, you know,
if I'd come out to everyone would probably be saying the same about me. And I was like, I actually genuinely feel so bad for that person.
Wow. So the scrutiny of other queer people around you caused you to sort of not even want to be yourself, even though
Yeah.
you'd not even come out to them yet.
It was like the whole of secondary school till I left. When I left, I became open to who I was. I got into a relationship. And then, like, everyone from school had found out, and I was like, I never knew. But it's like, throughout high school, from year 7 to 11, I couldn't feel who I wanted to be. I couldn't be myself because of the people around me. I know what they would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
See, another thing that happened as well is like, I'm stupid for this because I actually thought I trusted her. I'm not gonna say her name. Because like we become friends after that. Well, like, after it all happened, but I told a friend that I thought I could trust. We was in this little group, and then it got out because she told them, and then they told the popular kids, and you know what they're like.
Mhm.
And it all just got out, so like I didn't even have time to explain myself or like come out for my own. Like, it already come out, and that's when it started.
Yeah.
It's like, just what you're describing is bullying, isn't it?
It is.
So like a lot of different types of bullying, the only reason why they bully you is because they see something different.
Yeah.
Which is not cool to them, or like, I don't know, could be as simple as like wearing a pair of trainers that are really out there,
Yeah.
and suddenly
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm going to bully you for that.
Yeah.
But really, like, you're just individual, you're just you, you're just expressing yourself in the way that is authentic to you. So I would literally tell those people if it was me at school, just, you know, I'd actually be encouraged almost that, you know, something about me is like pushing against them in some way, and it's not good for them. But it doesn't make me a weird person. It doesn't make me a crazy person.
Another thing is as well, like the bullying can turn into harassment, which it happened to me.
Yes.
And when it was bullying, I could handle some of it, but when it started to get to harassment, like I just couldn't, like, because the police had to get involved at that point.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that I've really had police involved in my life, apart from my brother. Yeah.
Wow. And it's so sad that it has to get to that point where, you know, the authorities have to get involved. Do you think that if the teachers at your school had dealt with it differently, the authorities wouldn't have had to get involved?
No, not really, because I felt like in some way, like, the teachers were judging me as well, so like I didn't really go to them for help. Like I went to my mum, and like, I only had a couple main teachers. Like there was 3 of them. It was Mr. C, Mr. B, and Mr. E, because like, I could trust them.
Yeah.
And like they was the ones who was helping me, and they was all like men. And like just to know that some men in my life actually accepted me, because my dad wasn't accepting. Like my stepdad was, but my dad wasn't.
Yeah.
So when I was finding myself out and ended up cutting my hair short, like he first ever seen me, he didn't like it, and I didn't see him until after it grew back out, because I didn't want to disappoint him.
Wow.
Wow. Well, it's been so insightful
I know.
to hear what you guys had to say. But,
I haven't really spoke about gayness since I don't know. Sit back
Relax.
and enjoy
GapChat.
GapChat. Whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. Batman.